Crank up the volume and get ready for real-world bird hunting by listening to the Wingmen podcast by Eastmans. Now your host, Todd Helms.
Hey guys, while I got you here, make sure you're checking out, or I would highly encourage you to check out the entire suite of Eastman's YouTube content. That includes Eastman's Hunting TV on YouTube. Beyond the Grid is on YouTube. You can also find all of the Wingmen content, obviously, on YouTube, and all of our podcasts. Holy smokes, we have a massive suite of podcasts out there. So we have Eastman's Journal podcast, which is hosted by Ike Eastman. We have Eastman's Elevated, hosted by Brian Barney. We have Eastman's Life of a Bow Hunter, co-hosted by Brian Barney and Dan Picard. That's a tag team one. They talk about all things bow hunting. We have my favorite podcast, the Wingmen podcast, hosted by yours truly, Todd Helms. We have Eastman's Predator Pros, and we have the Western Huntsman podcast, hosted by Jim Huntsman. You can find all those podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find all of our gear reviews across all of our properties that we do on YouTube. Those are Wingmen gear reviews, Eastman's Hunting TV gear reviews, and I'm trying to remember what I left out, guys. But my point is, there is a plethora of information and content out there on YouTube for you to check out and enjoy. This episode's brought to you by Federal Premium Ammunition. You know, I've been shooting Federal for a lot of years, guys, and I can't say enough good things about them. Everything from the TSS Black Cloud loads to the Blue Box Steel, and now the heavy bismuth loads that they have, and of course the traditional tried and true Black Cloud FS steel. They got a load for everything. Last year I had a chance to put some of the new stuff through the paces, and I cannot speak highly enough about it. It swats birds out of the sky, gives me awesome patterns, and with the new heavy bismuth, I can use some of my old shotguns in the field as well and not have to sacrifice performance. So guys, when you reach for shells this year, reach for Federal Premium. Hey guys, Todd Helms here with another episode of the Wingmen podcast. I got a guest today. We're up here at Milk River Outfitters hunting late season, mainly geese, a few ducks. But I got Jeremy Schnebelt with me today. He's the head guide, head bird guy here, runs a great program, and just going to sit down and bring you a quick podcast from inside this beautiful lodge at Milk River Outfitters. Jeremy, thank you for jumping on, being willing to do this, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming out.
Oh, it was fun. It was
been
fun.
A blast.
That first day was great. It was crazy. Like, we had the weather up here. We drove up from Powell, and it was just like in the 50s, warm the whole way. We got up here, and it was like winter. We just like drove into winter. Everything was frosted over. We're up hunting with you guys, and it was, man, you had us on a sweet spot. Awesome blind. Got some great bird shooting in.
Yeah, definitely did. Yeah, it tends to get a little bit colder up here than most of Montana, it seems like.
Yeah, I would say so.
Dead zone.
I would say so. So you're predominantly hunting the Missouri here. At least we are this time of year, because the river's just south or north of the farm and the lodge here is the Milk River. But you guys do a lot of hunting in October. You get good numbers of birds in October too. Yeah,
we're on the edge of the prairie pothole, so early season, get a lot of, pretty much every species, and as the season goes on, it switches primary mallards and big honkers.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, early season's a different animal. All depends on when we get cold.
Yeah, it's funny because a couple of guys from the office usually end up deer hunting up here. They're always around Fort Peck, and they're looking at things in October, and they're sending me pictures of all kinds of birds rafted up on it. And they're like, dude, you got to come up here and hunt. I've been wanting to get up here for a really long time and actually get some hunting in, and it just hasn't worked out. Hold on one second. Would you take him outside, please? In fact, yeah. Let him run around out there.
I will.
It's a long time to be stuck in a crate like that. Better? Yeah, I tend to have a tendency to get loud once I start actually recording.
Looking over, so not directly into the mic.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not a huge deal. It's something we can fix in post, but just trying to mitigate it.
Cool. Yeah, this will work. It's nice and quiet in here. All right, perfect. So you're hunting in, I'm looking at some of the books you guys have from the lodge and things, and it looks like you have, like I was saying earlier, that October hunting looks like it's just phenomenal. You guys load up with birds. You have quite a few resident birds that hang that.
Yeah, a lot of resident birds. Hunt a lot of sloughs and backwater kind of stuff early season, shallow marshes and that. A lot of it from the irrigation runoff and that sort of thing. And the birds just flock in, they nest there, and then the first couple pushes of birds that start coming in, killing a lot of widgeon early, teal, wood ducks. Just depends on the year, really.
Wood ducks, man, that's kind of something I might have to come back up in October. That was kind of our original plan, was to try to get up here earlier in the year, and I just could not get away from work, from the office, but that's what I really wanted to do. But it worked out that we were able to get up here first part of January, and you guys are loaded with geese. I mean, loaded. There was just thousands and thousands of geese in this area.
Yeah. We get big pushes, and then all depending on snow load, how long they stay. So
Right. Yeah, it was pretty interesting hunting. The first day we were on a side channel of the Missouri, there's a big island, and you told me, you're like, your dog's going to love it because it's shallow. And it was perfect, man. It was like you had the decoys set up exactly the way the birds needed to be. Cool blind that was like dug into the bank like that. It was perfect. It was great. And I got sick. And so yesterday I stayed here, and you guys went and hunted another big blind, and everybody was texting me, you got to see this blind. It's incredible.
Yeah. Keep adding bigger and hopefully better blinds every year, and keep pushing it up. And biggest thing, when it's this cold out, everybody's worried about being cold and comfortable. So try to take the extra step to make sure that happens.
There's only so much you can control when it comes to what the birds do. But if you can keep guys comfortable in a blind and get them good food, and there's a lot you can kind of control the controllables, and make it comfortable and good for them. It definitely helps. I brought my dad along on this hunt. He's 73 years old. He gets cold really, really easy, and he was comfortable both days the entire time, no problem. And the first day we hunted was cold.
Yeah,
it was cold. There was a stiff wind. It was pretty gnarly. But you're not a Montana boy originally. So how did you get here? Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Lawrenceburg, Indiana, just outside of Cincinnati. I ended up here, buddy of a buddy, or started guiding up here, and Milk River used to do a lot more mule deer hunts. And so we had a lot of guides in, because it's 2-on-1, and had some guides. They were brothers. Their mom fell ill, and they needed a last-minute guy, and I was always off work to hunt. So I came up and filled in, and then 1 week turned to 3 weeks, turned to me quitting my career and sending and guiding full time. So
and your career was you were saying it was in
industrial maintenance. I worked in power plants, maintenance and operations, and 18 years, and let it all go to chase my passion.
I think that's awesome. Moved out here, and your background in industrial maintenance shows in the quality of your blinds. I can tell you that, because I couldn't build a blind like that. They're perfect, man.
Yeah,
that's super cool.
Thank you.
So you've been out here how long now?
2022. I came out August of 22, and pretty much been here ever since. During the off season, I do maintenance on the farm and fill in wherever else,
right.
Anything they need. So it's a small family run farm. Well, not small, but
right.
It's a big operation, and few people running it,
Right.
It's the local town here, the 200 residents. So it's not a big job pool to pull from. And then everybody that's here already has their own ranch and farm. So it's hard to get help up here, and it's a different lifestyle.
Well, it's been interesting because we've gotten to meet everybody. We've gotten Eric Albus is kind of owns Milk River Outfitters, owner and operator, and we've got to meet the whole family, and that's been super cool. You know, it's kind of an end of the season. You guys I don't think you have any more clients coming in for the year.
Nobody as of now.
Yeah, as of now.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And so it's been fun because we've gotten to spend time with the family. You know, the wives, the kids, everybody's just kind of around, and it's a kind of a slow time of year for a farm and ranch operation. You know, you're feeding cows and making sure nothing dies on you, but at the same time, there's always something to do.
Oh yeah, lots of equipment that needs upkeep, and whether it's repair maintenance or preventative maintenance, and then just keeping the cows fed and happy and the water open, and it's there's something to do every day.
Yeah, we pulled through town the other night. We got to Glasgow, and we're literally pulling through town, and the whole town goes dark.
Oh,
and it was all the frost on the power lines shut everything down. And we got here, and it's dark. We got lanterns. We're eating by lantern light. You know, eating supper that night. And they're trying to figure out how to get cattle watered and everything, and just the challenges of living in a rural place like this. This is the middle of nowhere for sure.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, just perspective. We're 2.5 hours on the highway to get to Walmart. So
right.
It's,
right. Yeah, it's not. But at the same time, you got everything you need right here.
Yeah.
It's like we've wanted for nothing while we've been here. And it's been super comfortable. The lodge is spectacular. How old is this lodge? It seems like it's pretty new.
It was finished in the summer of 20.
Okay.
Yep. So all redone. They slowly built everything up. I mean, they started out, it was basically a renovated 2-car garage that was the lodge and bunk beds, and then we are where we are today.
It's really cool because there's the old farmhouse across the way. You can put people in there. There's a bunch more deer heads in there, and then the chow hall, which we just came from after eating breakfast, is really great. Great big table. Food's been excellent, and I think I counted yesterday. There's 10 beds in this lodge. 12.
Yeah, we got 7 bedrooms in here. 2 masters that are kings and have their own bathroom, like private bathroom, and then 5 double rooms, and then 4 additional bathrooms. Okay. So pretty much everybody has their own bathroom, and you get groups. Do
you fill it up on hunts quite often? Like you got groups that are everybody's in here bird hunting?
Yeah, with our diversity and species, I mean, we do whitetail, mule deer, upland birds, waterfowl. So it's always a constant mix, Okay. My sweet spot in waterfowl's, 6 guys. I can handle up to 10. I built my blinds to handle 10 people. So, but 6 kind of sweet spot where it's not, giant and you're disassociated with everybody. Everybody's having a great time. And then, but yeah, we basically start in September with Upland, and then bow season opens, and then ducks start in October, and everything's overlapping, and then it's just a constant change out. And the camp turns great, because you get different diverse groups and stuff, and everybody brings their own stories, and get to meet a lot of people from all over the country.
What species of upland do you guys? Because waterfowl, you got geese and you got all the different ducks. But if guys listen to this are like, ooh, they got upland birds, what are you looking at for upland?
Early, we have sage grouse, starts in September, sage grouse and sharp-tailed grouse, and then pheasant opens the second weekend in October, and then Hungarian partridge comes in also with the grouse and that.
And I've seen a ton of pheasants since we've been here. I mean, just around the home place and down on the river.
Lots of pheasants. And then on the upland side, Montana, turkeys are in upland. We do big turkey camp, April, May. So
I would bet your turkey hunting's phenomenal. Just from what I saw the other day. I mean, there's probably 1,000 turkeys on that herb bottom right now.
Oh yeah. Each one on farms that we're feeding cattle and everything on, everybody's feeding that. We get a lot of turkeys. Turkeys have been doing great. Pheasants are doing great. It's looking bright for the future on that side for sure.
That's awesome. If you had to pick, what's your favorite thing to guide?
Definitely waterfowl with turkeys coming in, but I mean, I like all the diversity. I mean, I was, a dedicated deer hunter for a long time, and then as I started getting more and more in the waterfowl went, and then turkeys is a whole different time of year. So, it just kept me outdoors and kept going, but my heart's definitely in the waterfowl.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one for sure. So did you do a lot of waterfowling back in Indiana?
Yeah, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky. I lived right in the corner, so I was able to switch states pretty easily depending on where it was at, and it's not as good as this, but you make it happen. And it seemed like back then, there was guys that duck hunted, and then there was waterfowlers, so
Right.
definitely a thing. You had to be pretty hardcore out there to stay after it year after year because not as many birds and
Right.
not as much access.
Not
sure.
as much access. Growing up in Michigan, it was the same thing. We had good bird hunting, good waterfowl hunting, but you had to want it, man. You had to get out. You had to put in the windshield time and do the scouting and knocking on doors. And yeah, I know exactly what you mean. We used to get a lot of phone calls the day before. They go, "Hey, can we jump in with you guys? We're on a hunt." And it's like, I haven't even talked to you since last September, dude.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So as season wraps up here, what's the rest of your year look like? Prepping for next year.
Prepping for next year, getting more blinds put in and that kind of stuff. Kicking the turkeys in April, and then other than that, I just fill in where needed on the ranch and
Sure.
keep it going.
Yeah, I hear you.
Out here, everything goes hand in hand. Without the ranching and farming, I wouldn't have the properties to hunt.
Right.
And vice versa. I couldn't lease the number of acres that they need to run an efficient program. Just going out the other way. So
It was interesting the other day. We were hunting a lease that you guys have. But Montana's an interesting state in the fact that there's a high water rule.
yeah,
And we had some competition. They were downriver from us. They weren't set up right on top of us. They were a little closer than what we wanted for sure. But it definitely makes things interesting because those guys were doing a lot of sky busting that day. I mean, we'd watch birds go over at 100 yards up or 150 yards up, and they'd tear into them every single time.
yeah.
That's got to get – I mean, how often does stuff like that happen to you?
Pretty often. Not as much as other places I've hunted, but it definitely happens. We just try to, just like anywhere else, you just try to keep it cordial and make the best day that you can out of it.
Well, and it worked out. I mean, we
Yeah.
killed 15 geese and a duck, and we had lots of opportunities at birds. It wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
But man, it just gets old. And I kind of turned to the camera at one point the other day, and I guess it was a little rant, about sky busting. And it's like, man, learn the skills, develop the skills to finish birds. Because when you're just shooting at everything that flies by, you're not doing yourself or anybody else any favors.
Yeah, educating birds and it just ruin somebody else's hunt or make it harder than it could be. It's definitely thorn seems to happen everywhere. Whether it's guys that just decide they want to have that attitude or just not knowing, no mentorship and that kind of thing.
I think that's honestly, we talked about that a little bit in the blind the other day, and I think that's a huge part of it. Is guys just don't get it. They don't understand. It's like, not only when you're doing that stuff like that, you're not getting the full experience out of the hunt. We were finishing birds right in the decoys that day.
Yeah.
We didn't have cripples. We sailed one goose just because that happens from time to time. But, when you're shooting birds at 15, 20 yards, you're killing way more birds than you are when you're banging at them at 100.
Oh, yeah.
It's frustrating for me because we get it where we live too, where you'll watch a group of birds go around a river bend and somebody on the next bend will light them up. And it's like, those birds aren't even in range, man. I mean, I don't know how you're even expecting to kill one of those.
Yeah. Luck.
Yeah.
It only takes one BB. You always hear that, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's something that we can't talk about enough, to be real honest. I think with the influx of, young fresh blood into waterfowl hunting, which is a great thing. We need the next generation out there doing it. But I think we need kind of the old guard. I guess I'm that old guard now at my age, been doing it since I was a kid, if we don't talk about that and be like, yeah, man, practice your calling, learn how to set decoys, scout, and be patient with your birds, let them work.
Know your gun.
Know your gun. Yeah, it's, I don't know. And that it's just crazy to me just to think, because that was beat into me by my dad and by my mentors. It was like, no, that's too far. You can't shoot that far.
Yep.
And I don't know. I'm sure it was the same for you growing up.
Oh yeah, and you can come home with shells. You don't have to shoot them all.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I remember growing up, you know, my early hunting career, we go out rabbit hunting, and you never came home with shells.
Right.
A lot of trees suffered, you know.
Rabbit hunting. Oh man, that's something. So I think that's an interesting point. Actually, you bring that up. Small game hunting in general, whether it's birds or rabbits or even squirrels, I feel like it's just not as popular as it used to be.
I mean, that's one of the biggest things I miss coming out here is squirrel hunting. I used, you know, if I had a couple extra hours left and, you know, no time to really go do anything else, I'd go squirrel hunting, and, you know, just, you don't realize what you're learning from that, from stalking game and just time in the woods, and, you know what I mean, learning how animals move and how, you know, how everything is. It improved my hunting tenfold just because of the amount of squirrel hunting that I did. Sure. You know, whether I was coming home with a whole pack full of squirrels or nothing at all, you know, you seem to learn something every day. You're just out there and experience, and, you know, it's kind of a solo kind of thing. And you learn a lot about woodsmanship and, you know, how to be a good hunter.
I think that's huge. And I think that a lot of young people today get thrown into, you know, you see pictures of it all the time where, you know, you see a 6, 7, 8-year-old kid with a dead deer, great big dead deer, not just any deer. And they have ever shot anything but a deer. And I'm thinking to myself, are we doing those kids justice by just turning them loose in the deer woods?
Yeah.
You know, and granted, they're usually with a dad or a, you know, a relative or somebody. But man, we couldn't hunt big game in Michigan until we were 12. Wyoming's the same way. My kids right now are chasing small game.
Yeah.
They're hunting rabbits. They're hunting ducks. They're hunting geese. They're trying to shoot, you know, grouse in the fall and things like that. I think, man, that's, in my mind, that's kind of how it should start.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a lot more comfortable these days for the younger kids than I was, you know. The manufacturers actually make clothes for youth,
right?
You know, and all that. You know, when I was
Didn't
growing up, you're wearing hand-me-downs. You look like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man out there. You know, with 15
so
passed down layers, and, you know, tree stands were built out of 2x4s, and, you know, I remember when I was like 15, they came out the tree seat that you could sit down. I was like, you can sit down in the tree stand on this 2x4, you know, I mean, all day long. This is the greatest invention of all. Yeah.
I know it.
Our safety harness was just a belt around your waist, and, you know, a lot of that. And now, you know, you got easy pop-up blinds, and everybody's got big comfortable blinds to sit in. And I think we're missing a little bit of the experience and that, you know, riding your ATV right up to the blind and getting in and that kind of thing. You know, it's nice. It's great. Don't get me wrong, but I think you learn about. I don't know if I got yelled at enough for picking my feet up walking in with my dad, but I'm sure he wore that sentence out.
Yeah, no, oh my gosh. There was a lot of, growing up, there was a lot of, stay here, I'll be back.
Yeah.
You know, and of course, it felt like my brother and I would sit out in the woods for hours and hours and hours, and when Dad was in all likelihood only gone for 15, 20 minutes, you know, but there was a lot of that stuff growing up. But we had just such a great upbringing with that because we were just allowed to be out there and learn on our own. I mean, you talk about shooting squirrels. We didn't have, where I grew up, we didn't have like fox squirrels or gray squirrels or anything. We just had little red squirrels, pine squirrels.
Yeah.
And you really don't eat those things. They're so small. But going to the Lower Peninsula to the farm where my dad grew up, that was like my goal, man, was to shoot one of those big old fox squirrels. And I worked so hard at that, trying to do that, and I was just out there in the woods by myself.
Yeah.
Teaching yourself how to be still, and I was never still enough. I was always trying to walk around and stuff, and it's like, then you start hunting deer with a bow, and they're running all over the place, and you're like, oh, if I just sit still, it would probably work a lot better.
Yeah, for sure.
we used to hunt rabbits like this time of year, December through even March. Rabbit hunting was huge. Had a couple of buddies with beagles, and we shot so many rabbits, and it was a ton of fun. You learn how to shoot. You learn the woodsmanship skills, like you're saying. You learn how to push through woods to get rabbits moving, and you learn so many things that carry over into your big game hunting later on in life, or your waterfowling, or
muzzle control.
That
where your buddies are at.
Just handling a gun, yeah.
Yep.
What's the number one skill that you think that guys that come out on a hunt like this, that what's like, maybe your top 5 things that guys need to have dialed to get the most out of a hunt like this with you guys?
On the waterfowl side, I'd say it's definitely knowing your gun. A lot of people come out and they shoot behind the birds and they can't figure it out. And we got to get a lot of guys that want to do combo hunts and that. And, some guys bring 2 different guns. Some guys just have one, but just the speed difference in the, shooting steel versus the lead, you see, we go out in the morning, shoot pheasants or ducks, either way, whatever they're shooting second or first that day, it seems like they'll be a little bit behind with that just because of the speed difference in the shell and how to lead and that kind of thing. I think that could be, the biggest improvement from a hunter standpoint on harvesting game is, knowing your gun, knowing your shell, and, where you need to be at on the bird to make ethical shots.
What about gear when you show up, other than your gun and your shells?
Gear on the waterfowl side, most of the time I'm going to have you in blinds, and it's going to be pretty warm. Just dress them warm, have, quality gear. You know your body. I'm a little atypical on what to wear because I run hot all the time, so I almost wear nothing. And guys give me bad looks all the time. They're all bundled up, and I'm basically in a t-shirt and long sleeve shirt most of the day. But I'm moving a lot more than everybody else. I'm in and out of the blind.
Yep.
I'm getting, I'm getting birds and all that kind of stuff. So I tend to stay warmer. But waterfowl side, as far as gear, most of the time I tell everybody you need your shells, your gun, and whatever you need to make warm. Usually have heaters in the blind, even if we're running an A-frame and running, off to the side, I'll have buddy heaters in there or little propane heaters or whatever to keep, take the chill off and stay pretty comfortable.
Yeah, it was funny. I was looking at you the other day and I had to laugh because I'm like you. I run pretty hot, and I'm usually like a hoodie and maybe a vest, and I'm pretty comfortable. And the other day, coming down with whatever I've got right now, I was frozen the whole day. And I had every piece of gear that I brought with me on, and I just couldn't stay warm. Well, and I'm thinking to myself, what is going on? I thought, well, then it dawned on me. By that evening, I was shaking and I was sick. Ended up missing a day yesterday, and it was because of that. But I'm with you on that as far as being comfortable in these late season hunts. I see guys show up with the wrong stuff on hunts all the time, and they're miserable out there. And as a guide, you're doing everything you can to keep them warm, keep them in the blind, make it enjoyable. But if they don't have the right stuff, they're going to be miserable out there. Yeah,
it's definitely knowing your gear. A lot of guys they get ready for a trip and they're buying new gear and they've never tested it or anything like that. Sometimes less is more. See guys putting 2 or 3 pairs of socks on and it squishes all the insulation and then they end up freezing in their boots.
Right.
Same with their gloves, you got a brand new pair of gloves and then, handling your gun and all that kind of stuff. It's definitely having the knowledge of your gear and what you have is that, and for me and the blinds and stuff like that, it doesn't necessarily have to be camo, just,
right.
Quality gear. I'm going to have you hid.
Well, we were big time hidden the other day. Guy could have, I don't know about Blaze Orange, but guy could have been wearing some pretty non-hiding gear.
You can be wearing Carhartt work clothes and be fine.
Yeah. Ski gear, that's another thing. And one of the guys that was in the blind with us the other day, he's a big skier. Mm-hmm. And he was asking me about gear. And I said, dude, what you're wearing is about as good as it gets, honestly. Yeah. And I said, if you didn't have that, I said, your ski gear in a blind like this, that blind was super cool. It was like a half pit dug into the riverbank. We were about probably chest high front, and then you had the flip down panels. Those birds were not seeing us at all. And this is late season. These birds have been hammered at from Canada all the way to here since September. And we had geese in particular landing in the decoys. I mean,
Yeah.
we were hidden.
Yeah.
We were hidden. You have that 100% dialed.
Yeah. One of the early things you always hear about and learn is like your hide's number one waterfowl. Like you can mess up a lot of other things and still be successful, but if your hide's not good, the birds aren't going to finish.
You know, it's funny you say that. We get comments on our YouTube videos in particular. Be like, man, you guys aren't hidden very good. And it's such a fine line for us filming of being hidden well enough and still able to film. Yeah. That I do sacrifice some of that height ability, being totally concealed and hidden, for being able to actually run a camera in those blinds. Because it's like, I don't know how many times I'll get down there and I'll have the blind the way I want it, and the cameraman looks at me, he's like, dude, I can't film in this. Yeah. I can't. I'm thinking, well, all right. Well, so this is one of the things that I've kind of figured out with the whole hide not being 100% perfect, that as long as people are still and quiet. Yeah. I think a lot of people have the misnomer that they can be talking and they can be loud and they can be all this stuff in a duck blind. Oh, it's just birds. But if you're making noise and moving around in those blinds, no matter how well you're hidden, those birds are going to hear that. Yeah. They're going to see that motion. That's
definitely. I was pretty hard on it early in my guiding career. You know, you go from hunting with you and one or two buddies to, you know, having 5 or 6 guides, and, you know, that's part of duck hunting. Everybody wants to have the camaraderie and chat it up and all that kind of stuff. That's why, you know, I went into making elaborate blinds. That way, you know, I could kind of get a balance and still, you know, have quality hunts, but also bring in the camaraderie and all that kind of stuff, you know, that goes along with it. It's definitely a balance point.
It's something I fight a lot, you know, and it's like you want everybody to have a good time and have that camaraderie and that fellowship in the blind. And we were having a great time the other day, and I'm sure you guys had a good time yesterday too. But one of the things that I noticed was everybody in that blind, when the birds started to work, it went quiet, and we didn't have to say anything either. Yeah. You didn't have to be like, hey, pull the Lieutenant Dan, you know, get down, shut up. Yeah, we didn't have to do anything like that.
You see your guide or caller go quiet and start calling and look, and you better just follow suit.
Yeah, just
watch
chill.
What I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I appreciated the other day. I appreciated you. I felt like you gave just the right amount of direction and leadership without being heavy-handed in the blind, you know, and we had everybody in there is fairly seasoned, you know. The one gentleman that was in the far end, it was only his first year.
Yeah, it was his third waterfowl hunt, and I think we kind of ruined him, you know. It wasn't halfway through the second day. He's like, oh, I think I might have to get a dog.
He was like, hooting and hollering. He was having a good time.
Yeah.
He was having a good time. So advice for guys that show up in a camp like this, you know, maybe you know, they come as a guy and his dad, or, you know, it's your two buddies, and you show up, you're probably going to be hunting with other guys. Yeah. What is the biggest thing you see that guys can prepare themselves mentally so they enjoy it, they get the most out of it, they have the most fun? Because you're always dealing with multiple personalities and things.
Yeah. I think, you know, just be considerate, and, you know, everybody, you already have a common interest in the hunting. So it's easy for guys to link up, and we get, you know, guys that are, you know, corporate world to, you know, guys that run construction business, construction workers. I mean, the whole gamut. And it's one of the things here you see a lot is everybody meshes together because you already have a common interest. So it's easy for people to link up, even be from different worlds, but, you know, you're here to hunt. So everybody has those hunting stories and all that. And, you know, just be open, meet new people, you know, and then just, you know, it's easy. I know going in, you know, like how am I going to be able to talk to this guy, or, you know, I have nothing in common with him, but you do, because you're all here for a common goal, to hunt be outdoors, all that kind of stuff. So I think just, you know, be open to it and all that. I know the two guys that came up, you know, I don't think it was real clear to them, like there might be other people and that kind of thing. And they were kind of asking me, because the first day I just hunted with them. You know, you guys came in, your group started on day 2, so they were like, "Oh, how's it going to work?" and how this. I was like, "Man, it'll be fine. I'll you know, I mean, I'm gonna take care of everybody. It's not gonna be that." And you know, half hour into it, they just, you know, they're like, "Oh, all right, it's gonna work out."
It was a ton of fun. Yeah, they were great dudes, and we're, you know, within 30 minutes, everybody's get their phones out and they're showing us pictures of what they do and stuff they've done, and you know, and vice versa. And that common thread, you know, you walk into a hunting camp and there's, you know, I would imagine, like you said, during October or during, you know, the big game time when you got running combo hunts, especially, you got a full lodge. Yeah. A bunch of different people doing different things. I would bet that mealtime and BS sessions around this table over here in this lodge is pretty fun.
We get a lot of time. I mean, we do a lot of repeat business, but I mean, we have groups now that they all want to be here at the same time because they built that bond. This is the only place they've met ever, you know, from all over the country, and they all look forward to coming back. And then, you know, even though this guy might be hunting pheasants and you're a deer hunter, and this guy's hunting ducks and you're upland, whatever, it all seems to come together around the dining table.
This episode of the Wingmen Podcast is brought to you by Leupold Optics. You know, guys, obviously there's a handful of things that I rely upon heavily for wingmen. One being performance eyewear, and Leupold has crushed that category. I thought I knew what good eyewear was, what good sunglasses were. Man, I was wrong. Performance eyewear from Leupold has taken that to the next level for me. Another thing is binoculars. I have to have high-quality binoculars for scouting, for finding birds, and Leupolds bring me all of the qualities that I need in a pair of binoculars. They also make killer everything, as you guys know. So check out Leupold, and thank you for listening to today's podcast. Most of the stuff we do at Wingmen is freelancing. You know, we're doing stuff DIY, whether we're getting permission, door knocking, or we're hunting a lease that we have, different things like that. But I am blessed and fortunate enough to come to a place like Milk River Outfitters. I don't do it a lot, but usually once every couple of years, maybe twice, I'll go and hunt with an outfitter. And I always enjoy that camaraderie. I always enjoy being someplace new. And it really dawns on me that I'm like, I probably wouldn't be very effective at this, at like traveling up here on my own and doing something completely on my own. What's your take on why people should come to Milk River Outfitters to hunt with you guys?
I mean, our biggest thing is it's the whole package. If you know, you're not sure on whether you're just getting in the waterfowl or any of the stuff that we offer and all that, is when you come here, we always treat people like, you know, I mean, they're our cousin, brother, whatever, friend, you know, instantly it's just like being at your own house. I mean, even since the first day I was here, you get here, and if you're here during the morning, you know, we do our farm meetings right in the lodge and all that for whatever day. So you're intermingling with the family, and everybody, you know, treats everybody, you know, like you're part of what's here. You don't ever feel like an outsider. At least I haven't experienced that, or, you know, I mean, known that anybody has. So you get that side of it. So it makes it a lot easier when you're coming in a situation that you're not used to being in, that you immediately feel welcomed, you know, and all that kind of thing and that kind of stuff.
And your hunting is top notch.
Yeah, that's it. You know, our waterfowl program is building and building and building. They've always kind of had a waterfowl program, but never, you know, like really pushed it and that kind of stuff. And, you know, we have all the resources, is just bringing it all together. That's it. You know, seeing some other podcasts, people talking about like, what's it take to be a guide and what's your number one, like anybody can be a great guide on a great day. And anybody can be a horrible guide on a horrible day. But, you know, it's the time in the middle and the struggle. You know, there's days that, you know, I'm getting my butt kicked out there, you know, but birds won't do nothing and all that. And I just realized like half of my job is showing these guys a good time, you know, and keeping upbeat and that. And at the end of the day, I just get up and hunt every morning, you know, do the best I can. What I messed up this day, what didn't go well this day, you know, how can I improve that? And, just get up and hunt, and it always seems to work out to great trips. So
well, we've had a phenomenal time. I know that the other guys, especially, I've been, like I said, I spent all day in this lodge yesterday just trying not to die, and I don't get sick very often, and so that was kind of a big one. That goes back into what you were saying about this family operation, because there were several different times yesterday I had people checking on me. Hey, you doing all right? You need anything? And there was nothing anybody could do. I just had to suffer through it. But the fact that I wasn't just, here suffering by myself, it was kind of like, okay, you mean you want to go out there? I think Eric came and checked on me twice. He's like, you want to go out there? And I'm like, no, I do not want to go out there. I'm trying not to die here, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I think that, as part of their culture, everybody, you're so remote here. You are, but you aren't, it's 30 minutes to the grocery store.
Right.
An actual big grocery store and that. So everything is a little bit further. So whenever people need anything, it's not just, let me just run 2 miles down the road to, the store to be able to get even aspirin. Everything takes a little bit more. So just try to take care of each other and
it showed
in the same direction.
It showed for sure, and I missed being with you guys yesterday. But man, I was hurting unit, and I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna get to feeling better, and those guys will have to hold it down without me. And you guys had a good day yesterday. It sounds like saw a lot of birds, but typical late season stuff. If you're not right where they want to be, it's tough.
Yeah, and it changes every day.
Yeah,
where they want to be. And it's constant weather. The weather up here, this area is the land of extremes. 110 in the summer and negative 50 in the winter, and everything in between. And usually low moisture. I mean, they only get 10 to 12 inches of precipitation a year in the region, so it's a different monster than most people are aware of. Doesn't take long to freeze. And
that first spot that we hunted the first day, you guys were hunting kind of a loaf spot yesterday, trying to traffic some birds and get them pulled into a loaf. And but that first day, how would you describe that spot because it's not a feed. We weren't hunting a feed, but it wasn't really a roost either.
Yeah, it's kind of the loaf intermingle. You're pretty much trafficking birds for the most part. It's just unique. Late season, it gets harder. The birds go out. The weather's got them not necessarily on. It's hard to pattern them.
Yeah. They do something different every day. It seems like.
A week ago, there's days that I was like, oh, I lost everything. There's no birds left. Are we going, have to start canceling people, backing them off or what? And then, the clouds open up or it starts to snow a little bit, and I'll like, oh, there they are again, you know? And it's just, that's where the scouting comes in and keeping positive and keep it moving, kind of thing. It's, yeah.
Well, you've been up, our leave time here was about 5:30. We had pretty good drive to get where we were going. But one of the things that I was impressed with is you were already there. You had everything set up. You got to be, by the time we get to this time of year, dude, you got to be dragging.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, early September, mid-season December, I added up. I was like on day 105. It was about 3 days off in between everything. Because I'm pretty diverse, in my guiding. I start out, whitetail and doing some dove hunts and that kind of thing, and then move into waterfowl, but then I'm still doing deer at the same time, and then just constantly back and forth. So, 1 week I might have 3 deer hunters, next week I might have 10 duck hunters.
Yeah.
Or even the same week, Joe. It just depends. And even if I have a day off, I really don't have a day off because I'm doing blinds or getting decoys ready and fighting at, in the freeze and the ice and making sure everything's ready for the next group.
Right. Right.
So keeps it exciting, keeps it moving.
Yeah.
I'm definitely beat down. These last few days, I've probably went down 20, 30 times on
that
the ice and
we were kind of laughing about that, dude. But That ice is no joke. You
Yeah.
get walking around on it, it's easy to fall on that stuff.
Yep.
And just the frost that we've had, that you guys have had.
Yeah.
Like I said, we got here and it looked completely different. I mean, it was like, okay, we hit winter finally.
Yeah.
Up here. Everything was slippery. Everything's treacherous.
Everything's white and frosted up, and
Yeah.
it's from causing the power outages, the electric lines will be 4-6 inches around
Right.
just from the frost load on them. Same with the tree branches and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, it was beautiful. That river bottom is absolutely gorgeous, and when you put frost on it like that, it was kind of surreal, to be real honest. But oh man, pretty crazy stuff. Well, guys are going to ask too when they come up here and they're going to hunt, geese and ducks, not guns, but loads. What's your preference? What do you like to see guys show up with and use? Not necessarily brands, but
Yeah, usually I recommend number 2s.
Yep.
2s a lot. My main goal is decoy birds. Their feet are going to be down and they're going to be 25 yards. Yep.
Yep.
I usually tell everybody, you want a good starting point. You know your equipment better than I do, so go from there. But number 2s, modified choke, and bring plenty of shells.
Yeah. No, it was funny the other day because that's what I brought. I brought Federal Premium Black Cloud 3-inch 2s, and that was what I handed everybody to shoot, and we were stoning birds pretty good, but they were, like you said, they were close.
Yeah.
They were nice and tight, and you were shooting birds at 25 yards. What I thought was interesting is there was in that blind, we were pretty out of the wind. But when you got out of the blind and go to the bathroom or something, you're like, dude, there's a pretty good wind ripping down this river. And those birds would come in and they'd sail in, bow up, cup up, get right in the decoys, and you'd call the shot, and they're nice and tight. But if you didn't kill them on that first or second shot, they go from 20 yards to 50 yards real fast in that wind.
Yeah, they get out of there in a hurry.
Yeah. Yeah. We only had one bird that we had to chase, though.
Yeah.
And the dog got that one. Hondo got that one. But everything else fell pretty much right in the decoys, and it was easy peasy.
Yeah. It's definitely my goal, have them holding pumpkins when we let
Hugging
it
the
eat.
pumpkin,
Yep.
exactly. Or the first time I heard that was down in Colorado. There was this one that somebody was like, yeah, that one's hugging the pumpkin, dude. It's just like cupped right up. That's perfect. That's how you want it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. Easy to make ethical shots. Puts it in our favor when they're doing that.
Definitely. The duck behavior was interesting the other day. Was that pretty normal? And what we were seeing, I'll kind of explain it, was we'd get ducks to kind of swing and give us a look, but they really didn't want to be there. You could tell they felt safer out in that main river.
Yeah.
Where people probably they're not getting shot at out there.
Yeah.
Is that something that's pretty normal for
Yeah, it's
your
pretty
late
normal.
season?
I mean, and it's just the animal you're hunting. Why are they coming back to the river? Why are they there? It's just to get water.
Right.
They're not eating the shoreline to get grass and bugs and invertebrates at that time of year. They're coming to the water sources to get water. So you're trying to get them to do something they don't want to do.
Right.
So it makes it definitely harder and makes it a challenge. The ducks tend to stay floating most of the time, whereas the geese, they're getting up on shore and
Right.
Resting and laying down and all that kind of stuff. So it's easier to change their opinion because you're already where they want to be.
I have said it forever, and I wonder if you'd agree with me on this, that I think ducks decoy on dry land the way geese decoy over water.
Yeah.
It seems like on water, it's way easier to talk geese into giving it up over water.
Yeah.
And on dry land, it's that way with ducks. But ducks over water, if you're not where they want to be, man, it's tough.
Yeah, definitely the late season when you're doing that, when they don't want to be in that water. Our early season stuff, when you're in the sloughs or whatever else, they want to be there. They're coming there to eat and
Right.
to fight over it. It's like it's easy to be in a hurry to go eat, but after you have dinner and everything else, you're just kind of like, just going with the flow.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, we watched group after group after group go and kind of raft up in the middle of the river where they were safe, and it made sense to me. It's different where we are because the Missouri's pretty sandy bottom, and when the stuff that we hunt a lot is there's feed up and down the river. There's Russian olives hanging over. They're getting invertebrates off the river bottom in the shallow riffles, so they're feeding in the river just as much as they are out on dry land someplace. And so it's easier where we are to get ducks to trick them. You put out a bunch of decoys, it makes it look like there's a bunch of birds congregated and feeding in an area. Way easier for that because there's food all up and down our river, and that's not the case here necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely spots, just like anything else, but
Sure.
Usually late season, they're coming to water to get water.
Yeah.
You see them as soon as they land, they start dipping their heads and they're drinking.
Right.
They're drinking. So it's yeah.
And they're feeding dry land, getting grain and things like that.
Yep. Dry land. A lot of times, when we're getting our ducks and they're coming in and just doing it right, they'll be just full of grain.
Yeah.
So they're feeding up heavy in the dry fields and coming back to get a drink.
Well, and we've had pretty much a full moon while
Yeah.
we've been here, which makes your ducks feed all night long on dry land.
Yep.
And they don't move much during the day.
Especially here, big sky and the full moon's out. I mean, you could probably drive without headlights most days.
The other night, yeah, absolutely.
Especially the snow glare and all that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's lit up. It's yeah.
Yeah, I mean they'll feed all night long. And if they got a silage pile or something they can get on,
Yeah.
they'll just go gorge themselves all night long, and then they'll go get back on the water like you said, and they'll just sit there all day,
Yeah.
and they won't move.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I don't see the geese doing that. The geese are definitely much more
Yeah.
diurnal.
Yeah. Definitely. They seem to try to get on a pattern and they switch a little bit, fog affects them, the wind, all that kind of stuff. But on days that I thought I should have lost birds and all that, they just hunker down and don't move.
Well, it blows my mind. You start cleaning birds this time of year, especially those geese, and the fat on them is, a quarter of an inch thick, and they got just massive piles of feathers on them. They're just thick. They're weatherproof, and they don't have to move, and they don't burn any energy sitting there, sleeping on the ice. They don't burn any energy. So they can go days and days and days. And as long as they got water to drink, they don't need to eat to make it to struggle through and make it through the winter. Makes it hard hunting them on a feed for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of my struggle in early season is, they'll feed all night long. So, I have big feeds and try to get on them, but to get it, from a guide aspect and outfitting, it's hard to be like, oh, we're going to go shoot this field, even though there's, 5,000 ducks and geese coming into that field every day. They're not doing it on a clockwork where you want, where I can rely on that being a acceptable hunt, so to speak. So it makes it a challenge for sure.
And that's where your scout comes in. I've always said windshield time is what kills birds more than anything. Mm-hmm. You got to be out there and running around and seeing where birds are and what they're doing. And I would imagine that's tough too early in the season when you're running deer hunters and pheasant hunters and you're trying to scout waterfowl. That's got to be, you're getting pulled in a lot of different directions.
Yeah. I always got my eyes open for
I bet.
my other species when I'm out.
I bet.
Got some of my best spots hunting something else. So.
Yeah, I'm sure. You'd be out dropping deer hunters off, and it's like, oh, what's going on over there?
Yeah. Like just now out, scouting ducks and doing this, I'm noting where all the turkey flocks are.
It's not that long.
No, not that far away.
What's your season up here open the 15th of April?
15th of April.
Yeah, it's the same. I think ours in Wyoming is the 20th. We do have some spots that open on the 1st, but that's pretty rare. When I first moved out west, the season always opened on the 1st of April, and we had just some ridiculous hunts. Anytime you could get on a spot where they've been feeding cows all winter long, there'd be 300 birds or 500 birds on that.
Yeah.
And it was like all you had to do was set up something that looked like a strutter and they were mobbing it,
Yeah. Yeah, the turkeys are a different animal than what I was used to hunting back east, A lot more conjugated, and then they disperse far. You would be surprised how, areas that never have a turkey on them come springtime, how far the birds move up and down and all around. They travel.
That's what kind of blew my mind too out here was, and you see it in the Midwest as well, where turkeys will flock up in the wintertime and then disperse, but it's way more than that out here.
It's excelled out here.
It's crazy. Sure. I mean, just down the road from here, we went for a drive the other day when we got here, and there's 500-600 turkeys in that river bottom, maybe more. And I would bet money if you guys get a warm, dry spring, that by your opener, there'll be half of those turkeys in that river bottom. They'll be spread up and down all over the place for tens of miles.
Yeah, last year, we wintered probably 400-500 birds, right in that area, and then by the time at the end of the turkey season, they're dispersed down to there's 20 resident birds there.
Right.
A smaller flock, and they dissipate up and down with the food source come available, and the habitat opens up.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed the same thing. We hunted the last couple of years. We hunted with an outfitter. He's a little ways from here. Actually, it was interesting. The other day when we were hunting, we kind of looked, and it was actually quite close to where we were. And the first year we went, it was cold, and it was snowing. The first day we hunted, we killed 3 toms. Everything was awesome. That was with Circle S Outfitters, J.D. Stensland, and birds were still all bunched up. And I remember we went for a ride that first night, and they're like, well, there's birds here. We've been seeing birds over here, seeing birds here. What do you think? We got to this one spot, man, and it looked like down here. There was just birds everywhere, and they're running around chasing each other, dominance displays and everything. And I went, that's where we need to be in the morning. It's going to be awesome. And we moved the blind probably 150 yards between the bird I shot right at first light, and then that afternoon we moved the blind like 150 yards just so it would look different.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But we could have sat in the exact same spot and killed birds. And it was that dominance behavior. You put out the strutter with a couple of hens, and they just wanted to kill it. Mm-hmm. Last year the birds were dispersed, and they were totally focused on breeding. They didn't want anything to do with a strutter decoy. They'd see it and be like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And put the Jake up with a hen. That was a different story.
Yeah, yeah.
Then they'd come in and throttle that Jake.
Yep.
But they were way more focused on breeding. And it was roughly the same time frame. It wasn't like we were a month apart, like April and May. But it was amazing how much, and the weather was warmer. Those birds had time to disperse, and how much it changed. You guys have got to see, the exact same thing happens fast.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be a day difference. You could be on a feed and there's 300 birds there, and you get there the next day and then it's down to 20 or none. They got their program and they're following it.
How many turkey hunters do you guys take in the spring?
We're usually around 25 to 30, somewhere in there. Okay. And each year varies.
So you're a busy guy in the spring chasing turkeys, because I imagine you're the one doing that.
Yeah, yep. I do all the turkey hunts. We have another guy that works with us every once in a while, but for the most part, we're rolling it along. Tend to do, smaller groups, couple guys, 3 guys, whatever. And, from my aspect, growing up, turkeys was one of my, primary focus and passions. I used to travel a lot, kill a lot of turkeys, but everybody wants something else. So as soon as guys get here turkey hunting, I'm like, what kind of hunt do you want? Right. Are you a guy who wants to go sit in the blind and, you're sitting there and you put the decoys out and that's the way you do it? Or you're running gunning? Do you, what kind of hunt are you looking for? Do you want me calling fully guided kind of thing? You want to kind of like, I got this, I just need the access,
right.
kind of thing. And I don't know, that's kind of bend to whatever you need. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I want you to be successful. and have a good, have great hunts.
Right.
Other thing with our turkey hunts is in the springtime here, it's daylight. The birds start gobbling at 4 o'clock in the morning. The sun's not rising for another 2 hours, but they're already hammering. There's light in the sky, and it can make for a long day, and then it's not getting dark till 11, we can hunt all day long. So get a lot of guys get here and they're hardcore. I want to, be out there all day long. And usually by day 2, they're like, maybe that midday nap isn't a bad idea.
Exactly. That is such a good
be 18
point.
hours.
Oh man. I think last year's turkey hunt, we got up to JD's place and hunted. I shot a bird that evening. We got set up. He's like, there's been a bunch of birds out here. I said, let's just set up and see what happens. And as we're setting up, I hear a bird gobble. I'm like, okay, so there's obviously birds around. And I killed a bird pretty quick. And then that next morning, we got set up and killed a bird off the roost. And then literally everybody went back, took a nap, and killed another bird in that in the evening. Hunted for another bird the next morning, and we wanted to try to run and gun. And I'm curious to see your thoughts on this, because I ran into this in Michigan too. And we tried to do some run and gun hunting along the river, and every single time we'd strike a bird, and we'd try to move a little bit closer, we'd bump deer.
Oh yeah,
and that bird would shut up. Do you see that same thing here where your deer, those turkeys are keying on spooked deer?
Deer, pheasants, so many pheasants. In the morning, the pheasants are breeding at the same time as the turkey. So
it's crazy.
I've struck a lot of birds, cutting like a pheasant, and they'll fire up. But when you're trying to move through the brush and, a lot of times it's the less is more, let them come to you.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. There's an abundance of game. So it's hard to make a move because you're blowing something else out. And, our river bottoms, you really only got 20 or 30 yards of trees.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's following the river. So it's not like you're going to get in there and not bump something else to close 200 yards to get closer to a bird. A lot of times you're better off getting out on the field and, trying to peek to his aggression or, his territorial type things. That's what getting up earlier, making the moves in the dark to get as close as you feel comfortable and have more success that way than trying to, kind of like Midwest where you're just walking the logging trails and that kind of thing, trying to strike a bird. Out here, it's total different, terrain. So
yeah, and everything's concentrated. Deer, pheasants, everything's concentrated in that river bottom. They're right there with the turkeys. We ran into the exact same thing. So that I remember that morning I was like, we can try to run and gun, dude, but I don't think this is going to work. Yeah. And we bumped 3 or 4 birds because we flushed deer or flushed pheasants, and the next thing you know, it's like the bird goes quiet. It's like, yeah, pretty obvious what happened there. Mm-hmm. So then we went and set up on a travel corridor where we knew birds were going through in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Sat there for a couple hours in the blind, and it's everybody wants to run and gun turkeys because it's the fun way to do it.
Yeah.
But it's not always the most effective way to do it.
No. There's been birds that, I get targeted on and it's like, I got to get this bird. And, usually more successful is going to the edge of the field and the patience.
Right.
Patience.
Right. I've used a blind more in the last 3 years of turkey hunting than I have in my entire life.
Yeah.
And it's just simply because of that. A lot of the Western stuff in places like this, and even where we are in Wyoming, the birds are in the river bottom and everything else is in the river bottom. And so you're way more effective to set up on a field edge and just wait and let them come to you. Do a little calling and let your decoys do the work. And it usually works out pretty well. But man, I miss the whole running and gunning where you're out running around in the woods and striking birds. I love that stuff. It's a ton of fun.
Oh, it's definitely the most exciting way for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And and you don't have to go super far. You could go down to the breaks and hunt that way. You could go down when I lived in the Black Hills, you could run and gun all day long in the national forest. You got miles and miles and miles of logging roads and do that. In fact, you can walk your legs right off and not strike a bird. But then when you do, it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a ton of fun. Now I got to carry this bird out of here for the last 5-6 miles, but whatever. I guess that's why why we do it. It's a ton of fun, but cool. Well, we're gonna get packed up and get on the road. We got a pretty good drive, but I wanted to sit down and visit with you and say thank you for having us.
Thank you guys.
This is a ton of fun, man.
Yeah,
I wish I hadn't gotten sick.
Good wrap up for me for sure.
Good, good. Yeah, I would imagine you're gonna take a big long nap and
yeah, I'm gonna
retool,
rest up, and get back on it and get ready for the next.
Get ready for turkey hunting.
Yep.
Probably do a little buddy hunting, like you were saying.
Yeah, a couple days buddy hunt, family up, get the ranch guys out a few times, and
There you go.
let them enjoy the benefits of their
Absolutely.
their stuff. And
Got to keep them happy.
maybe catch a few fish and go from there.
If that reservoir ever freezes.
yeah.
Good grief. But awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Wingmen Podcast. Huge shout out to all of our partners, Federal Premium, Weatherby, Kryptek, High Mountain Seasonings, and of course, Leupold Optics and Roughland Kennels. Super stoked to work with great partners like them. They make it possible for us to do what we do. Guys, make sure you're checking us out on YouTube, on the Wingmen YouTube channel, and all of our social media feeds as well, Instagram and Facebook. And until next time, we'll see you in the field.